Hello, fellow YouTubers, and welcome back to Disabled DM. I'm Sherman D&D. And this review video is going to be different than some of my others, as I usually review supplements and things for Dungeons & Dragons 5e. But today I'm going to be reviewing a new system PDF called Shadows of the Demonlord by Robert J. A. Schwalb. But before I really get into the PDF itself, I want to talk a little bit about the feel of the game when it's played, and kind of discuss a one-shot that I played in using this system that was DM'd by Ken Flandorn, which did a very excellent job. I loved the session, and I look forward to playing again with him, either in one of my sessions or in something else he's posting, or even a continuation of that one shot. The overall feel I get from the system is it's meant to lean more towards dark fantasy or horror. It's very streamlined and focuses on the narrative and the storytelling, I think even more than 5e does, which surprised me. And it's really set up to be a post-apocalyptic setting, in whether it's fantasy, modern, sci-fi. But it has that supernatural feel to it. So with that being said, I'll talk a little bit about the oneshot that I did in my experience. It was very well run. I enjoyed playing with the players, that even though all of us and the DM was still pretty new to the system, we had a good group of role players, which is really what this system focuses on. Mechanics are pretty simple and easy to understand. And so in this one shot, we're sitting in an inn and kind of wondering about jobs to do, getting to know each other as a group. We go to see a constable and explore some murders at a dock. We dispose of the bodies as asked by the constable, and fight a lizard creature called a sling. A pretty interesting combat mechanics, a lot of fun to play. And then we moved on to a town meeting, which is uncommon, with the Baron, who makes a speech regarding demon worshippers, and that it's not allowed. And for the adventurers who are interested, are invited to go to his mansion and talk with a member of the local Church of the New God. So our group decides to go and investigate this, and we walk in it past a luxurious setting to see that people are being tortured on the back. Like one person's put inside of a metal bowl that's heated up, and all of us are kind of upset at this. My character, not particularly, because he's kind of a mercenary type, and used to sometimes extreme measures are taken to get information that you need. So we kind of overlook the church urger, talk to the priest and the baron and the other NPCs who basically assign us a target. And ours was as this man that is said to be trafficking in demon and worship. So we leave the mansion, and we're discussing what to do, and one of the party members knew of a contact that might have information for us regarding our target. Now, it's late evening by this time, so we decide to go back to the inn, have our evening meal, and sleep on it, and talk to the contact in the morning. We get back to the inn, and we get our food and drink, and we sit at a table with an old man who turns out to be our contact. And we're discussing our target with him, trying to get information, and it happened to say what the man's accused of, and then give the name. And right where we left off the session was the NPC, our contact, revealing that he was our target. So hopefully we'll pick up another session 2 of it, or even make a mini campaign, because I'm curious to see what happens. So, I really enjoyed playing in it. I thought it was extremely well run. I liked the setting, although it's a bit dark and detailed for some players. It definitely is set to be more of an adult game, which I enjoy. Too often games are watered down either because they're posted on YouTube and you can't be sure who's viewing them, or the younger people involved, or people who's sensitive to certain topics. And all that's fine and good, but it's nice to also play in a game or a system and session that no holds are barred. So let's go over the PDF. The artwork is amazing. The cover page really gives you the impression of what it's about, showing this big monstrous aberration, and it looks like an adventuring group getting ready to fight several imps and gargoyles are in the background. I thought the cover page definitely attracted my attention. The artwork is high quality. So they do an introduction action and after the preface. And in the introduction, they kind of go over a few things about the world and the setting being a dark time. I'm this creatures on the orbit. It's that the gates of hell have been opened, and all this unrest and suffering sweep in the mortal world, and it corrupts everything it touches. As with playing the game, it's definitely a game of cooperative storytelling. The game master is pretty much standard. The rules are better, but in this system, it's more of a narrator than really rules because the mechanics are so simple. It's really based around the GM presenting the setting and the situation, and players describing how the characters react to the situation. And then the GM tells you what happens next. Very few times did we have to even roll or a dice, which I really liked. The overall feeling with the NPCs and the characters is that of moral ambiguity, in which no one really fits neatly into a category of good and evil. It's kind of a gray area instead of black and white. And they do this in a couple ways, such as someone might be kind and generous, yet have murdered several people, or a cruel and vicious tyrant could be nice to animals, and they really give the villain and your opponents reasons for what they are doing that are pretty realistic. That if you were in that situation, you would probably be acting in the same way and doing the same behaviors. They make it pretty obvious that the setting and world is dangerous. There's no expectations about character survival. And they definitely have it set up to where the characters may not win every fight. And you really have to think about what you're going to do. The dice they use is pretty standard in that they use a D20, but in addition, instead of the rest of a typical set of dice, they use 3d6. And they have dice rollers, physical dice, etc. That's in the system, if you end up with a fraction from such things as having damage, you round down to the lowest whole number. One thing I really enjoyed in the PDF is they give an example of a play in which they have characters and they run through a mock scene with someone DMing and how it plays out. Character creation is really simple. The first thing you do to create your ancestry is, or your character, is you pick an ancestry. And these are pretty simple. Or you can play a human, a changeling, a clockwork, a dwarf, a goblin, or an orc. And each of them have different benefits. The humans are a pretty diverse people, and they're the dominant people in the world. They really excel on whatever path they take. Changelings in this are considered kind of a monstrous form, but they have the ability to change their identity and the physical features. And they really make really good rogues and magicians. Clockworks are basically constructs that are made and they bind souls into a mechanical body. The system allows for many different forms, and their origins determine the path. A good example of a clockwork is in the very old movie of the Titans, and they had an owl that was made of mechanical pieces and clockwork, and that's and gears, and that springs, and that's pretty much what a clockwork is. If I was to bring it into 5E terms, we would think of a Warforged, or in a modern or futuristic sci-fi setting, we would think of an android or a robot, things like that. Earths in this setting is an elder race, but they're cursed by the gods for their vanity, and they're doomed to toil and dig in the earth for the treasure. They make very powerful warriors and priests. Goblins are exiles from the realms of the Fae or Fairy, the filthy, grubby creatures that are low character, often malicious, and they do really good as rogues and magicians. Orcs in this are made by the dark magic to be ultimate slave soldiers for the empire. The brute, strong, violent, and they've kind of thrown off the shackle and taken their destiny into their own hands. and they make very strong warriors and deadly rogues. So once you have picked your ancestry, you get some benefits. And the different benefits depending on what you pick. Look, look. They have full or attributes which describe your character's capabilities. We would consider them stats, and they are strength, agility, intellect, and will. And for each one, you have a score and a modifier, just like 5e. Now, there are some things with this that I found interesting. They give you that every score starts at a base of 10, except for you can make 1 an 11. And 10 is considered average. Now, you also have the ability, according to the PDF, to adjust your scores you can increase one score by 1 by decreasing another score by 1. But you can only make this adjustment once. So a beginning character at the most will have a 12 on one score, or with the rest being 10, with the exception of 1 being a 9. Your scores do increase as you level. And if you have a 12 strength, the way the modifiers really work is your score determines your modifier. It's equal to your score minus 10. So if you have 10s, there's no modifier. If you have an 11, it's a +1. If it's a 12, it's a +2, and so forth. In addition to these attributes, you have your languages, as humans have common. There's dark speech, there's Dervish, Elvish, High Archaic, Trollish, a secret language, which is like your druids, your thieves, cats, rangers. And this is what they call dead languages, stuff that's fallen out of common usage. So once you have picked kind of your language, which it pretty much gives you these things, you have some characteristics that include defense, health, healing rate, perception, your size, your speed, your power, damage, how insane you are, and your corruption. And your ancestry tells you the numbers assigned to each one. You also have talent and benefits depending on your level, your ancestry. There's really a lot of variety, even though it's pretty simplistic and easy to make a character. One of the things I really enjoyed is that you actually have roll tables that you can roll pretty much your entire character. Uh, uh, for example, let's take creating a human. You have your starting attribute scores of a 10 strength, agility 10, intellect 10, and will 10. And you choose one attribute and increase it by 1. Your perception is equal to your intellect score. Your defense is equal to your agility score. Your health is equal to your strength score. And your hitting rate is equal to 1/4 of your health rounded down. Your size is either 1/2 or 1. Your speed is 10, power 0, damage 0, insanity 0, and corruption 0. Your languages and professions as a human, you speak the common tongue, and you can either speak one additional language or add a random profession. Now, once this is done, you go into your background, your personality, religion, age, etc. For your background, they have a table which is a D20 roll, and you roll or you pick one that you like. So say you rolled a 1. Your background would be you died and returned to life, and you start the game with a D6 roll of insanity. 8. After you have rolled your background, you have your personality, and it's a 3D6 roll. So the lowest you'll get a 3, and the highest is an 18. And they have what they give you for each one. So let's say you roll all or a 5 or a 6. Your personality is might makes right. Obedience to authority is the highest skill. So someone with this personality would obey the law as written unless someone in authority countermands them. They would be very by the book, not really a lot of give and take for a particular situation. And then you go into a 3D6 roll for your religion, and you can have adopt our call, heretical sect, teachings of witchcraft, tenets of old faith, cult of the new god, or no religion. Then you go age. It's a 3D6 roll again. And you have child, adolescent, young adult, middle-aged adult, older adult, or venerable adult. Venerable adult is basically 76 years or older. You then go into your build, and it's a 3D6 roll, whether you're short and thin, slender, heavy, average, overweight, tall, etc. And again, you can roll for it, or you can pick what you like off of the tables, or you can even use it as inspiration to for yourself to uh, come up with these descriptions of your characters and their personalities. But I really like that they have it pretty much laid out. The last table they give you is a pivots. And again, it's a 3d6 roll. And you can have hideous, you could look like a monster, you could be ugly with a scar, you could be homely, you could be plain and uninteresting, you could be average, you could be attractive, comely, a great beauty, a a a a one that I found interesting in is one they say you can put beautiful people to shame. These are like your supermodels, your celebrities type film. And they do this for every race and ancestry. Which I thought was pretty nice. It made creating a character a breeze. I turned one out in maybe 10 minutes. The PDF's a pretty simple read. I like the colors and page scheme. The format's easy to understand. Artwork is fantastic. They also give you professions if you choose it according to your ancestry. And these are pretty simple in such that you could be an academic, a common tradesman, a criminal, some kind of martial soldier, religious, or wilderness. And they have tables for each one, which I find really interesting. And this just gives you a little bit more of a flavor, such as a common might be a butcher, might be an animal trainer, a criminal could be a beggar, a forger, a gambler. A martial profession, you might be a constable or a mercenary, a guard, a slave. Wilderness, you could be a gatherer, a hunter, an outlaw. They really give some real basics that leave it up to you on how to play your character. They don't go into a whole lot of detail on how military profession such as a mercenary acts. Your starting gets pretty simple. All they give you a table for wealth, and it gives you basically what you need, and they divide it up. The table's a 3d6 roll, and you have desident, poor, getting by, comfortable, wealthy, or rich. And once you figure out what your wealth level is, you go right under the table, and they have lists for each of those levels. Destitute, you have a club or a sling with 20 stones, rags, and a pouch containing 1d6 bits, which bits is pretty much the equivalent of upper and 5e. Money's a lot harder to come by. It's a real survival game. It's not people aren't walking around town with hundreds, if not thousands, of gold in their pouches, like some of the other RPGs. They also give you what they call an interesting thing. And this could be an unusual item, a character trait, a heirloom, something that makes your character unique. And the way they do this, I found was interesting. They roll a 1d6 to see which interesting thing table you use, because there's 6 different tables, and then you roll a d20 on that table. So for example, if you roll a d6 and you rolled a 1, you would consult interesting table 1. And there's 20 options. And so let's say you rolled a 19. And your interesting thing would be a phylactery that holds a scrap of paper on which is written a single word. And there's all sorts of different options. Some of them I find are really interesting. They can make for some really good role play. The PDF then goes into role playing and gives some questions to give you a sense of how your character thinks, behaves, and what they believe. And these are pretty simple questions. Relationships. How do other people make your character feel? Do you like being the center of attention? Do you make friends easily, etc.? I actually didn't really do this with my character in the one-shot I ran, because by the time I had done all the tables, I had a pretty good idea of who he was as a character and how I wanted to play him. Although it was surprising in the one-shot, the guy I made was named Kane, and he was kind of set up as a mercenary scavenger that kind of looked out for himself. But when I went to play him, he was very insightful, or kind of a protector of the group, a little bit. Not to where it was really noticeable, but more of to where he made sure that others stayed healthy because that benefited him. And I also played the same character in 5e after playing this one shot. And it was interesting to see the difference, because in the 5e one shot, he was more of a soldier who was really protective of his group. Whereas in this one shot, it wasn't quite so much that way. But neither time I played him, but did he become what I really made him to be. And part of that just group dynamics, and just natural or with the setting and interacting. So I found that quite interesting. After in the role play section, they also give you a D20, a table role on personality traits, and they have 2 columns, positive and negative. And these are things for positive. Are they cheerful, courageous, dependable, forgiving, honest, noble, etc.? Negative, are they arrogant, conceited, deceitful, lazy, rude, obnoxious, sarcastic, thoughtless, vulgar, things like that. So even just doing the D20 rolls for personality traits can help you get a feel for your character if you don't already have a good idea of them. They then talk a little bit about your first adventure, how with things as how to resolve fights, social interaction, moving, and they don't go into great detail, but they do explain kind of the setup on how you could build a group, cooperation, find gear, achieving your objective, and they show you how to level up as well. Making decisions are pretty easy. You tell the GM what you want to do, and unless something interesting happens that interferes with that activity, you proceed on. If you try to do something that's impossible, the GM tells you that it doesn't happen and what results from the effort. And it's kind of a judgment call. Sometimes you have to roll the dice. They're very lenient on timekeeping in this system, but sometimes there are occasions where the time is important. Rolling the dice is pretty easy. You roll each one whenever you attempt an activity. That outcome is uncertain, and the DM or GM will tell you when to do this. The die roll determines whether the attempt is success or failure based on a target number, usually some kind of defense score for an attack or an attribute score. You also roll 1 or more 6-sided dice for a number of effects. The most common situations determining damage dealt by an attack. Let's take, for example, a fire blast spell. Now, the spell effect requires that you roll 3d6. It's for damage. Sometimes you add or subtract modifiers such as 1d6 plus 2 to get your total. They also have wounds and games that require you to adjust a d20 roll by adding or subtracting a d6 roll. And boons and banes are pretty simple. If there's something in the situation that works in your favor, you get a boon, which allows you to add a d6 roll to your d20. If something's a negative, or a bane would hinder you, you roll a 1d6 and you subtract it from your d20 roll. Sometimes you'll have to roll a d3, and to do that you roll a d6, count 1 and 2 as a 1, 3 and 4 as a 2, and 5 and 6 as a 3. It's pretty easy. It's simply the d20 roll, apply modifiers, your boons, banes, and you determine the result. They also have what they call a challenge roll. And this is when you attempt an activity that is not directly opposed by another creature or its outcome isn't certain. A good example of this would be picking a lock, climbing, and it's pretty much the same setup as far as the d20 roll with the modifiers, the boons, and banes. Now, one difference with this is the target number for challenge rolls are always 10. If you beat a 10, the activity happens as you describe it. If you don't beat the 10, the activity either doesn't happen or you don't get the desired outcome. One thing to note with a failure, if you attempt the same activity again under identical circumstances, it automatically results in a failure. So something has to have changed in order for you to attempt it again and have a chance of success. And that really is pretty much the entire PDF. They have a little bit more detail on insanity, corruption, power, difficult terrain, different types of damage, and conditions, and what happens when you die. Pretty much all the standard RPG things that are found in a player's handbook or a DM's guide is in this one PDF. Now, there is something that is interesting with how they do combat. There is no initiative or turn order per se. They have what they call fast turns and slow turns. And you get to pick whether you want to take a fast turn or a slow turn. Same with your opponents. Now, a fast turn allows you to either do an action or move over your speed. You can't do both on a fast turn. On a slow turn, you can use both an action and move up to your speed. and they can use that action at any point during the movement. So, say you have 4 players and you're fighting one creature. 2 of your players want to take a fast turn, and 2 of your players want to take a slow turn. The creature decides to take a slow turn. So the order would be the players who took the fast turns, the players who took the slow turn, then the monster who took a slow turn. Now, if a monster took a fast turn, they would go before the players who took the slow turn. It sounds a little bit complicated, but once you get into it and see how it works after the first round, it's pretty simple. And the DM will usually say, okay, we have Kane that took a fast turn, and Ariel also took a fast turn, but Scrap took a slow turn. So, Kane, what are you doing? And then you would describe your fast turn. And it's pretty much totally open for what order the players go in during the fast and slow turns. But it works out a lot easier than you would think it would. You would think there would be people over speaking each other and kind of the rush to be first. But it really wasn't like that in the one shot I played. Now that could be because of the players, or it could be the DM just did an excellent job maintaining the spotlight on the players. And that's really the entire PDF is pretty much like this. It's a 274-page PDF, and they go into some different things such as novice paths, magician training, priest, etc. But given what I reviewed right there is enough for you to hop into a session and play. There's really no need to really read the entire PDF, especially since you don't really get it class per se right away when you begin a character. It comes a little bit later down the road. So that gives you some time to read this other stuff that probably won't be necessary for the first session or two. But it was a very enjoyable game. They have spells, as magic, talents, all sorts of things. It's definitely a very interesting read. It's definitely unique from any RPG I've played in the system mechanics. Yes. So I really enjoyed it. I hope my viewers enjoyed the review and are intrigued enough to at least try it, because it's definitely worth the try if you're into more of a dark fantasy or horror-based post-apocalyptic game. So with that being said, I thank you all for watching, and as always, may the dice roll in your favor.